Okay.
So we are now recording. This is a meeting of the Public Art Commission for the town of Amherst. And at this time, I'd like to recognize the chair, Tom Morger. Take it away, Tom.
Angela, quick question.
Sure.
Um, Lori and I invited somebody to maybe drop in on the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it, if the person does that, how do I admit them?
So you have to, at the bottom of your screen, there's a little icon that has people, it says participants. If you click on that, it will show
Yep.
you the panelists, but then
Mm-hmm.
it will also show you the
Oh.
attendee room. It'll say
Mm-hmm.
view full attendee list.
Yeah.
And then you can click on the person's name and promote them to the panelist room.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, no problem. I will make you host now
Okay.
and have a great meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela.
Sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, hello, everyone. One, two, three, four, five, six. We're all here.
Great.
Okay. So sent you as usual some things just a little while ago, and I'm going to try sharing my screen now. The question is that I send myself a copy.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, um, agenda. Here. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, okay. And now I want to go back and pull up the draft minutes for us to look at. Okay, so last time um Lynn was not able to make it because no fault of her own. She was left off the invitation list by Angela. But I hope that's in the past
My
now.
email was wrong, so that got
Yeah,
fixed.
yeah. She was in a word, yes. Mhm. Okay. And last time Samantha and I both forgot to initiate the Zoom recording session, so there is no recording of last time's meeting. There are no members of the public there.
Actually, the meeting that are you talking about the meeting that I was not at? Because I did watch a recording of that.
You did?
Yeah, I
Oh,
watched it the next day, I think, when I realized
oh,
that I had missed it.
I'll have to go back. I was looking high and low for it. Yes, you did tell me that you saw it.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. I will look for it and correct this sentence here in these minutes. Thank you, Lynn.
Hmm.
Um, just recapping from my um, update last time, talked with John Page, director of the Business Improvement District. I need to get back in touch with him to see how he's coming with that. And I also want to ask him for some, if the Chamber of Commerce has any statistics on um, number of visitors and the amount of money that the arts in Amherst can claim to represent. Some of that might be helpful for us. And the percent for art discussion next month. Okay. And last time we voted in Lori as treasurer. We formed a small working group to expedite draft on mission policies. So at the meeting, Dara and I volunteered, and Lynn joined on right away afterwards. And the three of us met last week. We'll talk about that later on in this meeting. Okay. We didn't take any action on nominating a member to the Elementary School Percent for Art Advisory Committee. That's the selection committee. We can either do that this week or kick it down the road again. Electrify Amherst, going back into action. You got the email from me with some pictures showing the first of the three for this spring. I expect the other two to be ready to paint in just a few days.
Does
Can
the
I-
town, oh,
Oh,
Does the
sorry,
town-
go ahead.
does the town have to do something to ready the box?
No, actually, they don't. I had asked about that, and Guilford Mooring, the director of Public Works, said no, because I thought they'd want to do something. What Monica did was she roughed up the surface, which was just the raw aluminum, slightly with sandpaper to get some tooth.
Yeah.
Then she painted it with acrylic, excuse me, with latex primer, house paint primer, and then she used, excuse me, she used various colors of latex house paint
Oh, huh.
to do the painting there. She's done boxes before in Northampton and somewhere else on a private, corporate property someplace.
Hmm.
Uh,
What I was gonna say is I think I saw her painting and it was really charming and she looked very happy to be doing what she was
mm,
doing. And it made me think it would be cool if and I could maybe volunteer to do this sort of thing,
mhm,
could film a few of the people
yeah.
painting their boxes and interview them a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Dara, and I'm going to offer that. I'm going to offer that to the two who are coming up.
Yeah, and
Um,
maybe Monica would still
Yeah,
stand by it and talk about it for a minute.
yeah. Mhm.
It'd be nice to put up on our website.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
Mikey.
So maybe you could talk to Yana O at Amherst Media, the director who's there now.
Yeah.
She might
Mhm,
be she's the director as of right now. I don't know if she's gonna be the full-time director, but she did it for the Amherst Historical Society with the Cambodian exhibit. She was
Oh,
part of
great.
the exhibit, but she also got people to go there and videotape the whole exhibit. So
Mhm,
she might be willing, and that would be very helpful
that would be
to
great.
do a combination of the two.
Oh, that'd be great. Yes, good idea. Good idea. Okay.
I don't mean to take it away from Dara, but
No,
Oh,
no,
that's,
you could be together.
that's
No.
really, really better. Thank you.
Sure.
mhm. No, that's good. We might also think about that same idea for the artists who display at the town hall gallery.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
And then percent for art, whatever we
Oh
decide,
goodness,
it would
yeah.
be really good if we got
Yeah.
Amherst
Yeah.
Media
Mm-hmm.
to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agreed. Okay. All right. So speaking of the town hall gallery, just a reminder that this month, so March and April, Elena Storm paintings, Celeste Z will be exhibiting in May and June. And I'm still working on somebody for July and August. I'm hoping that a person who does quilting will be willing to exhibit.
Mhm.
Is there
Okay.
an opening, a day for the reception in May?
I don't have a day for the May reception yet. Um, I'll I'll get to work this week on the publicity for May, and then I'll get in touch with Celeste also. I do have the date to help her hang the paintings, so I can ask her then.
Um,
Uh,
I will contact the Historical Society and see if they want to do anything for July, August too.
oh yeah, that'd be wonderful. That'd be
Right.
wonderful.
Okay.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. There we go. So last time, just as a note here from when we're listing the updates, that I reported on the town council meeting, what percent for art for a new elementary school was discussed. Paul Bockelman presented a memo to the council. You have a copy of that. And he recommended quote unquote no action by the council, which held up for all of about 3 minutes. But I thank him for that because basically he's saying, hey, let's go for the whole thing, the whole 250. So the rest of my paragraph here is just recapping the summary, including the motion to set it at 100. Comments by other counselors, none of the others, by the way, brought up the, oh gee, we've got to cut down the money as in their statements. The statements, in fact, were, hey, wait, we've got to hear a bit more about this. And even one counselor who said we should spend the whole thing because that's what it was for. I'm paraphrasing very liberally on that. Later in this meeting, I want to remember to ask Lynn to give her thoughts on the meeting too, when we discuss our next steps in planning. Okay. I think somewhere in here should be saying, yeah, okay, that was essentially it for the meeting. So I'd like to ask whether we can approve the minutes with the
I move
correction.
to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, and all in favor of approving the minutes with that one correction to it? Okay, thank you all very much. I hate minutes. It's so much like being back at work. But I understand why they're necessary. Okay. Okay. This. And at this point, I'll bring up the draft that was worked on in turn by Lynn, Dara, and myself. So if there's anything here you don't like, you can just yell at me about it. But I'm hoping, again, not to put thumb on the scale, but that's what I'll do. I'm hoping that we're at the point where this can go to Paul Bockelman to ask for his reaction to it, his blessings, and whether he thinks it needs to go to the town council. I'm hoping then that when we get to the end of whatever approvals come from that direction, that we ask Samantha Giffen, the town's webmaster, to make up the web pages for us. In fact, at that point, to redo the whole set of them um, around this document.
Can I talk about this first page?
Please do.
Just to say that I tried to make it a one-page piece,
Mhm.
so that, because if to have one-page things is really useful
Sure.
when you're having meetings and showing people things. So I abbreviated a whole lot. I think that one thing that needs to be improved, and if people could come up with something better, is at the end of Public Art in Amherst, the vision, it says, and presents thought-provoking experiences. I don't think that's good enough. And so if you can think of something else that you'd rather plug in there, that'd be so helpful, before we finalize it. And
Okay. Mhm.
Mikey, yeah.
You might say memorable.
Oh, that's good. That's way better.
So substitute member.
Where are we talking about? What part of it?
Public
Here-
Art and Amherst Division, the second
okay.
last line.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. So take out thought-provoking and put memorable.
I think that's way better.
Yeah.
Or what about meaningful?
That's good too. You can add both. You can say memorable and meaningful.
Mhm.
That's good. And I think that's enough. Probably.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
good.
you so much for working on this. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. That was fun to do that. So you're thinking where would be the bottom of this first page, Dara,
The first page right there.
as it's
Yeah.
going? So this would be the bottom.
I think so.
Okay.
I don't think, I think the next part starts being about kind of like a handbook,
Yeah,
war
Yep.
type thing.
it
And
does.
so that can be changed like that. If there's something in that paragraph that starts on the second page that you think belongs on the first page, I'm sure we can make that still a first page by doing some fiddling with the design of it.
I I think your initial take is correct, that this is a second order set of information. We talk about the 7 members, et cetera, et cetera.
Maybe you could move the last sentence of the last paragraph to learn more about APAC membership, click here,
Yeah.
and have one link on that first page.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. That works.
Yeah, and we can move that, we can make that happen.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, just as a reminder, and this is in line with what Dara was just saying, um, my my idea, well, it sounds a little grandiose, but I was going to say my vision, no, is that we can have multiple extracts from the document or
Yeah,
the web pages to run off for different purposes and
yeah.
put in different places.
My
Okay.
my thought on the I guess on the second page where there's quite a lot of text and it's the responsibilities, with the
Yeah.
first one being community engagement and advocacy.
Mhm.
Advocacy is repeated farther
Yeah.
down with
Oh,
a
oh, yeah.
duplicate. And so
Okay.
the second part of that could be moved up into the advocacy section.
Move this up into the first
Well, the
grouping.
first line should come out altogether where it says, under advocacy, the collaborate with local government is a repeat from what's already
Yeah,
above.
okay. Okay, got it.
But the other two, the rest of it could move up.
Yeah, okay, thank you. By the way, the reason there's a space here and a space there is that for some reason I gave up trying to figure out. Google Docs just wouldn't let me get rid of it.
Uh-huh.
They're different fonts.
Yeah,
That's
that
part of it.
that's part of it.
Yeah.
Well, various of us, working in different computer environments, you get you get artifacts that happen that way. I'll straighten that out though.
Um, I also thought that maybe the first bullet under the community engagement advocacy the first two could really be one sentence with just an and collaborate. So they
Yeah.
serve as and they collaborate with.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I sort of this is I think that in some ways things that are on a website should be very simple, and things that you hand out to someone can be more complicated or more elaborate. And so I think that it might be that I think the reading level is really high in this document, particularly in the beginning part. And I think that that works really well for some audiences, but it'd be interesting to put it on a website and see how it reads. I don't know. I mean, I spent a lot of time working on publications for English as a second language, and so I'm
Mhm.
just sensitive to that. But you
Mhm.
know, it just depends on your audience.
Yeah, let's hold that as you're suggesting until we're at the point where the content itself has been vetted and approved, and then we can, as we develop it for the website, we can come back to this question. One point I'll add on is that if we decide, in fact, to go with the very standard notion that you keep it simple and short for web presentation, I'd like to make sure that we don't lose it even in the web setting. So if that means pushing it off to links or something after the more brief this discussion, that'd be good. Because I'm anticipating uh, that some readers, I'm thinking in particular of the one person we dealt with last year who was rather insistent. I'd like to be able to show uh, some of our policy right up front or close to up front. I worry a little bit about us potentially having a web presentation that uh, doesn't have the depth that somebody who's ready to go into depth would want to see. But let's let's hold off and then address this, concern when we get to actually working on the release of it, if that's okay with everybody. Does
Yeah,
that
I like the
work within?
idea. I like the idea of having a publication that the town council members would receive before we made a presentation so that they would
Yeah,
have time to really understand
yeah, that would be
that
good.
maybe this is a new group, or I mean, I don't know, but to not hand it out at the meeting, but to have a week before or something. I
Well,
think.
it would be good. It would be good, in fact, to have it for that meeting because I don't think I don't think many people on the council have much background or memory
Well, to do
about
both, I
consent
guess.
for art.
Send it out ahead and also provide it at the meeting.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm. I also like the idea, again, being a lifelong academic, um, you know, having a lot of material ready to go in a situation where something important is being discussed. Okay.
Do you have a thought about having it translated?
Oh, that's a good point too. That's a good point. That hadn't occurred to me at all.
There can definitely be people who can translate it. I'm sure you know them.
Yeah.
Um, and you can have links to translations in
Mhm.
whatever number of languages you can get people to translate it into.
That's right.
I
Well, I
mean,
don't know Cambodian, but I could certainly do French.
Yana
But
O can do it for Cambodian.
yeah. Okay.
Y'all find you, it would be easy to find people who could do that. And
Sure.
there's a
Right, right.
translation center.
Talk to the school,
Yeah.
or I'll talk to the school. I work there.
hmm Okay. That's a great point. It would also be the work of translating. It also would mean that somebody from those language communities would get very familiar with the document and might have some ideas for us about, you know, ways to reach out.
mhm.
So I started winding down the document here with, we discussed this a bit, the three of us, current funding for public art, keeping, and we'll put a link for percent for art here. Um, I was, I volunteered to provide a list with links and pictures to public art in Amherst. So I just sort of roughed it in here. As you can see, uh, uh, my focus was more on showing the different kinds of public art rather than trying to give the whole inventory right here. I think we still want that on our website and need to update it. And Angela had started working on that. But if people have ideas about how to make this section interesting, I'd be glad to hear.
I think that on the website, that could be a sidebar as well, so that
Yeah.
people could click on it to learn about
Mhm.
public art in Amherst.
Right, you could have
Actual pieces.
six little squares that you
Mhm.
can click on each one and learn some more information,
Yeah,
where they are, and have
yeah,
photographs and stuff.
yeah. By the way, the the current web page with the images and the map of public art in Amherst, that was drawn up in um, some application that's no longer available. Oldest story on the web, or second oldest. So I think, and Samantha and Angela were starting to talk about that before Angela was away for a little bit of vacation. So I'll get back with the two of them about it. I think they're probably just going to need to take the basic materials and make something new and easy to edit and not worry so much about making it a little applet. Unless they want to inherit the perpetual responsibility to keep it up. Okay. And then here, really getting down to the end. Um, again, as I was saying earlier, to try to keep some of our policy uh, in front of our eyes, at least as we're uh, drafting for comment and wording, without regard to where it goes, where it appears eventually. Um, if you take a look at these last sections, after the meeting, and send me back any thoughts or suggestions, particularly if you think I'm missing anything. By the way, for those of you who remember, for want of a nail,
Yeah,
I think this is the nail. This is our nail here. Recommendations to the town council. So this would apply for a gift as well as any other project. And I think I put up above, or it was already there. Um, the criteria, maybe I didn't put it in there. It would be some statement about suitability,
Well, I
or
think I remember
maybe,
reading something about that.
yeah, or maybe suitability shows up somewhere else.
I don't think you have the word suitability, but you have the intent of it. You say
Yeah,
concept and intent, and then site and logistics.
okay,
You just haven't said the word suitability. You could throw it in there though to really,
yeah,
catch that.
okay, yeah, thank you, thank you. Um,
I think that's really. I'm glad you had that in there. That really does kind of give people
mhm.
an actual blueprint for how to do public.
Yeah,
How to work with us in public art, which we didn't have before.
we didn't,
So
right,
grateful
yeah,
to see all that work being done. Thank you so
yeah.
much.
Hmm. Okay, and then this is just um, for our purposes here. This isn't part of the document itself. Okay, so we're at the halfway point in the meeting, and I think we want to spend a good amount of time talking about percent for art and the preparation. But before we move away from this, does anybody have a comment or discussion topic they'd like to us to take up here in the meeting? Let me ask you then um, if I make the the edits that were suggested, do you want to see it one more time, or do you want me to just take it to Paul?
I don't mind looking, if you want to send it, just to have people just quickly look at it. I don't mind looking at it.
I will do that.
I
I
think
would have,
looking at it ahead of a meeting is helpful
yeah.
because you can take your time by yourself to read it and
Hmm.
think about it a little bit. So I guess what Lynn's saying
Well,
is
we have a meeting coming up, was it 21st,
24th, I think.
24th?
I don't know, maybe 21st. I'm sorry.
Okay,
21st, I think.
21st.
yeah, yeah. Okay, then I'll have that ready and in your hands in advance of that meeting, so people can look at it, and maybe at that point we will be ready to close on the drafting. Okay,
That'd be great. Thank you.
okay, good. All right. So I'm going to stop the screen sharing, 'cause I don't have anything further to show, but it- let me make a chair's executive suggestion that in the time remaining today, that we do some discussion about what it is we want to say when we come before the town council in May. And then secondly, uh, based on that discussion, what information do we feel we need to rush off and look for so we can start pulling that together and seeing what it tells us and what we choose to focus on. And um, one one last thing, and I sent you this via email before the meeting. This is the copy of the email from between Paul Bockelman and myself. And there's one section that I'll call to your attention. I had asked him, I got the bright idea after the last meeting that I'd um, ask him for a private sit down to talk a little bit of strategy about what APAC, is going to do between now and May and get any insight that he had on that. And he stepped into that question to answer that, yeah, he'd be glad to meet with me. They said, in the meantime, um, let's see, he said, you should discuss as a commission what you will recommend as an amount to the town council. They will want to know your informed opinion on how much should be allocated for art and how you arrived at that number. Now, between you, me, the wall, and the recording, that's what I was hoping to head off. But I think it's
Why?
I think you can do a range.
I
Well,
think we should ask for the full 250.
I do.
Didn't Lori say that she had somebody that would be really good for us to work with?
yeah, thank you. Lori, do you want to summarize what you heard from the conversation? And then Lynn, before I forget, I do want to hear any thoughts and observations you had when you attended with me that town council meeting. But Lori, would you go first?
Yeah, I have a friend and colleague, a former colleague, who has been working in public art for many, many years. She's in San Francisco, and she spent a good amount of time with me on the phone. I sent you all kind of a recap of my conversation with her. Her name is Lynn Bear, and she has, as I said, done many public art projects with many different towns and cities. So it was really helpful and clarifying to speak with her. She actually recommended that the kind of document that we were just working on, that we work with someone like her to prepare that. I told her that we had looked at a lot of websites and thought that we could do it on our own, which is what we're doing, but that was her recommendation. For this, I'm just looking at my notes. I don't have much more to say than what I shared with you in the email, but her recommendation was, rather than focusing on how much money it's going to save the town and try to counter that argument as to a reason, why to do it or not, to save money or not save money. Her feeling was really focused on the value of why we want the art, why art is important, why public art is important now and to the town of Amherst. And so I wrote about that to all of you. The lasting value of work, how this does set a precedent. So I put together kind of a presentation and potential presentation that we points to cover that I also shared. And this, some of the arguments that this will be the first time that, we have students really focus on the students, you know, engaging with public art, how many students, how many people are going to be using that building, going through that building, how many years it will be there for. It's
Yeah.
the lasting time, how, you know, how long it will be there for generations to come, that sort of thing. So all of that, which I put in my notes to you, and then from that I drew up kind of a presentation recommendation. She from talking to her, I don't feel like we can do this project without hiring a consultant like her. It makes so much sense. Someone with the kind of expertise and has the time to put in that's going to take to manage a project like this, which I don't think any of us can do or can do together. So I think that's very important to include so that the town council knows that. And that is generally 10% of the project. She recommends that we talk to the architect and see if we can get the architect on board to give his or her, you know, okay, comments about the value of public art in the building. I think that makes a lot of sense. So if you all agree, I think one of us should go ahead and do that outreach so that we can bring that to the meeting or to our presentation. What else besides? And so I think her recommendation where we would hire a consultant and then we would tell you know, we would talk about what we want, what we're looking for, and then the consultant would pick a certain number of artists and they would come and present it to the commission, the group, whatever the group that is selected, not our group, but our commission, but the other group with one of us representing on it to then decide which artists and then comes back to us and then eventually goes to the council. So, and then the person who's managing it would see it all the way through to the end. And some of the costs involved, details of that. So I think, you know, I hope you all had a chance to look at what I sent to you. Also, I think for the presentation, we should have a PowerPoint with several examples of public art and different maybe costs involved in what we're looking at and presenting. So I think a PowerPoint would be very important to have for the meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Lori. That's been very helpful, tremendous. Couple of thoughts. The approach of hiring a consultant to drive the project, I think does a good job in addition to drawing a line between one type of project where we're really very serious, the town, about getting a very high quality work of art versus not to belittle the art or the people, but what we do with the traffic boxes or with the town, you know, many of the other small projects. Hey, folks, here's a call. Send us your stuff and we'll choose a few. I think if we get ourselves backed into a low budget approach, that's sort of we'll be doing a glorified version of that.
So,
it's artist
Lori,
decoration.
Lori, where would the cost of the consultant's fee come from?
From whatever amount we are given by whatever amount is approved for the percent for art.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think
Can
that
I wait just a second? So there are quite a few local consultants who have very, very high credentials, who maybe should be consulted by one or two people on the commission in terms of fairly deciding who the consultant on the project would be.
Oh,
And it could
absolutely.
be a decision of the whole commission, but maybe Tom and somebody
Mhm.
else could
Mhm.
interview a few
Yeah,
of the local consultants, and I'm
Yeah.
sure we have contacts who we can throw in to, to see if they'd be willing to
Okay.
either
I'd be,
make suggestions or themselves who are official consultants.
yeah.
Yeah.
My friend who's been in this business
Yeah.
for a long time and knows a lot of people said she knows people she can recommend in the Boston area. I don't think anyone in Western Mass, but maybe there is someone, and I think we
There
should
are
really
some.
compare their
There are people.
yeah,
There are
compare,
definitely
a couple of people and find out what kind of projects they've worked on and
let's
see
So
collect
we
some
what they've
names.
done.
need
Let's,
to do this right away.
yeah, that's
Well, I
right.
don't know if we need to do it before we know how much money we're getting, but we
You sure?
could.
Because if part of knowing how to get how much money, part of presenting how much money we uh think that should come for the artwork is to be able to say that we have researched stuff, like you did a great job and got us getting started with all kinds of really important things that have to be in place. And if we know a list, like we are interviewing a list of consultants and we'll be able to suggest, if we could do that before, that's part of the
Yeah.
information of us
Mhm.
doing our due
I think
diligence.
that's stronger. That's stronger. Yes.
You
Plus,
might even be able to
mhm.
use that as an opportunity to show what a
Yeah.
consultant overseeing a project might look like. And
Right.
if folks have
Right.
examples of things they worked
Yeah.
on, then you've even got,
Yeah.
you're
And a
getting,
couple of the people who do this kind of work around here are people who have direct connections to art museums and artists and all kinds of stuff who are in this area. And that's important.
Okay. Well, if
I
the
don't think
people,
it's exclusive that
Mm.
way, but it's something important for us to,
yeah, please if you send me names,
okay,
I'll put that list together, and then I'll get back to you all with a suggestion that maybe a couple of us would work on contacting these folks.
yeah,
And I have to put a little bit of thought into it, but we can do this. I can take Lori's thought seriously that um, we don't want to reach out to these people and then say we've got nothing.
no,
Right.
So we have to be a little careful about how strongly we lean on people to get information
yeah,
at this stage. But I think we can be candid about where we are.
yeah,
I,
And
I would think you could say that you're putting together a proposal to present
yeah,
to this body to, you
yeah,
know,
we need some advice.
Yeah, and
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with asking for proposals. I mean, that's what they do.
yeah, yeah,
And you're not saying I'm going to definitely do business with you, but asking for proposals is part of the business
yeah.
or anything.
hmm
So
Okay, Lynn, getting back to what I like keep asking.
the meeting, about the
Yeah,
meeting.
from that meeting, do you have any insights? You don't have to recount the meeting, but
Yeah, well,
in the context of anything you've heard us discuss since then, whatever you think would be helpful.
when because this was the first time I ever been to a town council meeting, so I don't know the folks there at all, but um, I actually was, you know, the first person who spoke was a person who said which should be $100,000, and my first thought was, okay, well, now here we go, now everybody's just going to agree with her, but that wasn't what happened at all. I mean,
Mhm.
people were really very interested in learning more. They felt like they were already kind of almost brainstorming ideas, and so I think it's a pretty open group. I was optimistic actually in the end that people
Mhm.
seemed pretty interested, and I think that it'd be great if it wasn't at the end of a meeting. Our part also happened after all of the, all of the school stuff. So I don't know if we have
Yeah,
any chance of being any early part
the
of
meeting was Zoom bombed. Somebody in my neighborhood here, I have no idea, but somebody here in Echo Hill North lined up like 20 people to make 5-minute
I mean, I think that affects
pitches.
how people, but
On what subject?
it's about the
School
school
budget.
budget. And so by the time they got to us, and you know,
Okay.
at least an hour had
Yeah.
gone by or more.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if we have any option on the agenda. It'd be nice to be on
Can you
there
ask to be higher up on the,
earlier.
Well, we can talk with Lynn Griesmer, the chair, about that. I'm not, I'm trying to remember, she may have moved the agenda to have the public comments section come earlier. So I think that's a good point, Lynn. Let's, for the 19th, let's try to get right, have us be the first agenda item.
That I think that could help. And so, you know, I guess I'm optimistic.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I do think that I agree with folks who've said, kind of come in at, just assume that it's the full ask. I think it makes kind of
Mhm.
start with there. And I really do like this outline. I think it's very, very helpful. And I
That's
like the
Lori's
idea of,
outline.
you
yeah,
know, getting people excited about the project, the value of it. I actually think that, you know, there's the cost of the project, but the value that it brings in the future, there's no way to quantify that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
and then the, you know, with the money, even though Paul said about the money, I think that's, you almost want to downplay that in a way and talk
Yeah.
about the project and the
We're gonna
value
have to
of
manage,
town. And
we,
then
we
this
can
is,
manage that. We have
know.
to, we're gonna have to choreograph how in, how in the course of that meeting, we're able to, um, you know, to speak to the money side of things, but not have it, but I fully agree that, you know, we shouldn't plan that we're gonna come in there with a number other than the 250. At least not until very deep in the back and forth with the council.
I think the only thing about that's all true. I agree so much. And we can have a backup plan
Mhm.
that's way, way buried deep in our ideas that you don't want to be blindsided if you have to deal with it.
Well, I think, yeah, I think that's right. I think the way to think about it is that, we will come in with a presentation. And by the way, I'm hoping that the council that and Paul will agree that we come as a panel, maybe not necessarily all of us, but anybody, certainly anybody who wants to, and certainly not just me going in there as chair. No, I mean, be happy to get as beaten up as people want to, but you know, we've got much more talent and insight in this group than I have. So I'd like I'd like to have our good minds there in front of the 13 good minds of the counselors. Now, we will have our idea of what we want to present and such, but at some point, the counselors are going to start speaking up, and we're going to have to answer questions.
Uh,
And that's where I think we need to be. We need to have thought through what we say.
Are we able to send to the town council information pages ahead of that meeting?
Yeah, yes.
How far ahead and how much
I
do you,
think uh by town rules,
okay,
they have to have it 2 business days in advance,
2 business days.
2 business days in advance. Um, as a person who's chaired more committees than I care to remember, what often happens is that even if you send the stuff a little sooner, they're going to be reading it on the way to the meeting.
Yeah, I know that too, but it's still good to be able to say, we sent you
Yes.
one pages on these topics
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and with pretty sharp
Yeah.
information.
I think that also sends the message that we are serious
Yeah,
about this.
yeah. So that would be really good. Maybe we could each take a topic. I mean, not right now, but I
Yeah.
mean, agree to like do
Mhm.
and you do something really short, but shows that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. All right, on that point, let me make the suggestion that between now and the next meeting, 21st or whenever it is, that everybody takes a look at Lori's agenda
Yeah.
and picks out a piece of it that they'd like to think about, lead our thinking about in preparation to discuss it at the meeting, and also do some thinking about what kinds of information, what kinds of questions do we need to ask to shape some research so that we've got some good substance on those points.
So Lori, what pieces of of the outline do you think are more adaptable to our presentation than, because there's pretty many.
Let me pull up.
Yeah. It's easy to pull up to look at it if you want to look at it. And
Yeah, I want to pull that. The one that I sent you is what you're talking about.
yeah, it starts advocating for the
Yeah.
first 250
So
days.
what your question was what?
Just can you prioritize the list?
Lori, if you want to share the page, you can do that. It's up to
Okay,
you. It's up to you.
I can share it.
I feel like it's written in an order that you would present it. To me,
Okay.
it made sense the way it's
Can you
listed
see my
here.
screen?
Yeah.
Not
Says
yet.
it's coming. There,
There.
you got it.
That's
Okay.
great.
So I wrote this really, my thoughts were that this would be, something, this or something similar would be the presentation that one of us or shared by several, a couple of us would present this along with slides so that the introduction would be, we are the Public Arts Commission of Amherst and introduce ourselves, and we could share the link or, a printout of, hopefully a link or printout of what we just went over at the beginning of the meeting in terms of who we are and what we do. And then that the purpose of, we're happy to be there to show up to advocate for maintaining this full allocation of the amount 250,000 in line with what was established in the percent for the art bylaw. And I think then to go through very briefly each of these points to present that this was a bylaw designed and passed by the Amherst Town Council in 2020. As I say here, to ensure that meaningful, high quality public art exists in the town of Amherst. I believe that there's a similar bylaw in Cambridge. And it's very significant that this is the first project to
Right.
come up before the town council. And in that sense, leading into exactly precedent matters. And this is really important for the council to consider that this is the first time of the application of this project, and it's going to set a precedent. And I think it would really show Amherst's commitment and dedication to the arts and education, especially at a time where I think it's needed more than ever to, that kind of thing. So that's my sense.
Just 1 second, see, the precedent matters. I think the strong implementation affirms Amherst's dedication ought to be the first one of that, not the reducing. You see, just switch those two.
Yeah.
Where, switch what?
Precedent matters.
Under precedent matters.
Precedent
Oh,
matters.
sure. I would agree. I
Yeah.
would agree. In fact, I didn't even go there first,
Yeah, well, you were talking about it, so I was following along.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, that should be reversed. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
the way,
So
I
that
think,
otherwise, everything else is really good. It's great.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and that precedent matters, and therefore reducing the amount, I think, sets a precedent that shows, less commitment in the
mhm.
town at a time where I think, like you say, it really matters. So
Yeah.
switching
A
those
coup-
two,
a couple of
and
quick
then
points.
I think really talking if we can get the number of students, really talking about
Okay.
how many students will be engaged with this art every single day, and that it can also be a draw for people to come. It could be a really significant work of art where it would draw many people from the town of Amherst and from well beyond to come see this work of art and to engage with it. So I think that's
And see
really
the
important.
wonderful
And then if we
school.
have then some examples of public art that has done that for the communities and the locations where it exists.
So to go on to 4, like 5, IV5.
Yeah, so I think if we
200
actually have some quotes from people who, communities that have benefited, that would be great. I don't exactly know where to get those. Maybe their Cambridge could provide something. I don't know.
Can I suggest something about this part though?
Yeah.
Um, I don't think what 250 provides versus 100,000 provides. That sets up an argument for
Mhm.
them.
Yeah, we can leave it.
And,
Let's treat that as an internal note here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and if you say $100,000 can fund a mural or simple installation, that can provide ammunition that we
Yeah.
don't need to provide.
I think so. I think that's true. I think that the what all of us can hold and share when we
Mhm.
are asked
Mhm.
Yeah.
is that 250 will provide us with an amount where we can really
I have another,
engage an artist for something really valuable.
Yeah, you can change the artist's life too. If you focus on young artists for a young people's school, it could be amazing.
maybe not even say what 100, maybe not
No, I
even
wouldn't
use
say
the
what people do.
$100,000, but this is what you get with this amount of money, and any amount less is less. Do
I
we
think
need to say $100,000? Because then it sounds like we're doing an either or thing rather than,
Well, I think that we're going to have this come up and so we don't have to put it in our presentation, but it was presented that the first presentation was to fund us there is a motion on the table that has been
Yeah,
oh, I see.
postponed to
Okay.
propose $100,000 that would give a perfectly fine and good work of art. I forget the language in it. Um, which I think is not actually accurate. So I think that's just to know that what you will end up with if one approves $100,000 is probably a mural or a mosaic.
well,
Well, here's, um,
So we don't have to present that, but
yeah,
just to
right,
know.
right. Well, here's something we have to figure out. Um, we probably need to show some examples that we think were really nice percent for art outcomes at other places. But right on the heels of us doing that is going to be the question of what did they cost? So we're going to have our eyes wide open, um, as we head onto that terrain. I think, the rest of you can can speak to this, but I'm thinking that we cannot do a presentation where we don't show anything, any samples, but the samples uh, put us on a kind of slippery slope where the question just comes up naturally as well, what did such and such school district pay for this nice thing? So we have to think about how to handle that.
Well, I think you had some examples, Tom, previously, and I need to, we all should probably review those together. And I think
Mhm.
some of them were lower amounts, but I also think that some of them were done like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
think $30,000 or $80,000 spent in 2015 is
Mhm.
the equivalent. You know,
Right.
I just,
Right.
it's gonna
Right.
be,
Oh,
we have to take that into consideration too.
by the way, for what it's worth, I did notice that the new Soldiers Home in Holyoke, right on 91, that's
Yeah,
been under construction,
Yeah.
that they allocated $200,000 for a work of public art. It's going to be sculpture, quote unquote memorial, that's going to go right out in the circular drive. If you Google that project, you'll see that the architecture is really superb and the landscape design is really, really high end. And so that's sort of more in the range that um, of impact that we would hope to see.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to
Yeah,
show
I think
local.
sculpture
Yeah.
is much more expensive to produce.
Yeah. What I found, again, everybody please read through the examples because there are there are sculptures included in those examples, and they do come in at all stages, all parts of the range there. But generally, I think as a general proposition, sculpture is a bigger project, is a more expensive ask than a mural. I think that's correct.
yeah.
The other thing about it though is where would it go?
Hmm.
You know, I mean,
Okay, good point.
seems like that might be included in the conversation that we have.
Yeah,
And
That's a
There's
conversation to have with the architect also, because
yeah,
you're gonna want his recommendation,
right.
his or her
Yeah.
recommendation.
That's
I watched a film of a meeting between the school, initial school committee and the architect's representative. The architect was not at the meeting. The architect has a spokesperson to talk for them about their project. It's a big, big company.
Mhm.
And so most of the meeting was about how to get a cheaper signage on the property and where to put it. And I think I bet you'd like to listen to that because it gives you an idea of what kind of conversation goes on when you're trying to get something on the cheap.
let's
So
let's
it's worth watching
yeah,
because,
yeah.
and the
Let's
other, these
explore,
architects,
let's explore who from the architectural side of the project, y- might be able to tell us some helpful things and might be able to be invoked to further our argument. It might not be the top person as you're suggesting, Darren. I
well,
can
I don't
very,
even know if there is one that would count in that position. And I think the firm is from, I don't know, it's like from far away.
yeah. Yeah, they're a national firm,
Yeah,
and this is not one of their big projects.
no, no.
Uh,
So here's another little thing, Lori, I want to just check with you and see what you think. In section 6, closing argument, do you see that?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that the 250 ensures a high quality transformative project that matches the excellence of the new school should stop there. And don't say rather than a scaled down compromise. And just
mhm.
put 250 first in that key point thing maybe, or maybe second.
Mhm.
And save the rather than a scaled down compromise for are being able, having something to say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did, Tom, did, Kathy Schoen ever send you the information that she was going to send?
No, she didn't. I will tonight send her an email saying we're ready to take her up on that offer. She will, here's how I see this playing out. She will probably offer to sit down with us and show us her selection of renderings and accounts of discussions that have happened within the project. Um, the I think we have to, that will be beneficial, and we have to hear her out
Oh, yeah.
on that. But I think we also want to go a little deeper, as we've been saying, and uh, to explore, for example, uh, she made the point, I think at the council meeting, that there was no obvious place to put a sculpture. And she was thinking about, an oval. I'm just making this up. I think she was implying that there isn't an oval marked out in front of the front door. Sculpture goes here. But the plans for the landscaping, as I look at them, are filled with possibilities for where one or multiple sculptures might go. So I think we can push deeper into the plans, both the landscape and also the building itself. Um,
Yeah, they're bound to have talked about this a lot in
oh
their,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And I think this is true. I think Kathy's name is Shane.
Shane. Okay,
Do we
thank you.
have the a planner as a resource person with the town of Amherst? Are we allowed to have a planner on our side to help us with our project or with our presentation?
I don't think so. I didn't get anywhere with Angela
Hmm.
and bringing that up.
Okay, it feels like that should be a resource that the town
Yeah,
offers us as Public Art Commission. I don't understand why we still don't have a planner on board. That's how we make wise decisions. So that surprises me.
Just think because the town is so small and everything's volunteer.
Yeah, but we pay planners. We had two of them before. I don't know if we have a second one now.
I don't either.
mhm.
We had one before, and
Yeah, I
as
remember.
we know, yeah, and then she went away, and like we never got one after that. And I'm like wondering why we never got a replacement.
Well, I think that in the Q&A that Tom sent to the town manager, one of his answers talks about, no, you're not going to get any money from the town. None of the commissions or committees by their volunteer get money from the town.
Well, we don't need money, but we need the resources of a town employee who is paid by the hour to actually help us implement stuff for the town. We don't get paid. That's why you have to have a planner on board. That's why I just don't understand why we don't have that as a resource.
Yeah,
I-
the town is supporting, or I'm sure they're putting money into this whole visioning project for Amherst. And a lot of that has to do with
Yeah.
Yeah,
the look and feel of the town,
Yep.
public art. Is there any
yeah.
way we can tie those? Here's a lot
Good
that's
idea.
going in. A lot of people have talked about it, and I've never seen a report or anything, but there's got to be something that talks about the value of art and this, I don't know, and can we use that, bring that into the argument for
There is not, but at this point, but the town design and Terry knows some about this too, because she looked into this the town design
Mhm.
board or design project.
Yep.
Um, and that's an excellent idea, Lynn, because that's our entry to get onto the line of thinking that Terry's proposing.
Mhm.
And I think it works out this way. I think at the kind of um, thinking about it stage, it is Amherst way is that volunteer committees do that. However, once you start getting down to making it happen, then I think you've got a much stronger argument for saying, hey, we need some professional planning input on this. And I think we have we can go back to that design project, probably even approach the consultants themselves, because they conducted public outreach that we
Mhm.
attended.
Yep.
I think that wouldn't be out of line to do that. Plus, we have the town planner, the senior planner, who is new, just began during the summer. Um, and it's an opportunity to say, hello, we're the Public Art Committee. We'd like to get acquainted with you and talk about, the role of not just of the planning here, but of the importance to the town. As one of you was just saying a few minutes ago, that this is uh, this is a big banner thing for the town.
Yeah. Well, I was
And
wondering if you had some, data from all the people who participated in that you could use that information. So, this is what the people in the town of Amherst feel about these
yeah,
kinds of things, and use
Yeah,
that as
that vision was based on downtown and zoning and the look, like coming up with a uniform look for downtown, which has a lot of disparate elements in it, and
Mhm.
trying to kind of bring it together and make it look more uniform, and instead of just like, it feels like it's patchwork downtown.
Mhm.
And I think the public's response to those meetings was very high, and everybody in the Amherst people who attended those meetings really want also to see an improvement in downtown Amherst. So you can use that um, to argue for the same approach in this school and in public art.
hmm hmm
So it would be interesting to look and see what those final reports said. I did not follow what they finally said at the end. So
Well, the process goes on for another year, but I think there's summaries of those reports on the town website.
okay,
We can look for those.
right.
And,
I'll
uh,
take a look at that.
and as people who participated, I think we have an opening to press a little more to find out. But I think to what Terry's saying, uh, one of the takeaways that I had from attending two full days, nearly 2 full days, on that was that you know the conversation was not just about dollars and cents. It was about cultural value, and people
Exactly.
came at it from all different angles. So I think that that's something of a precedent we can try to wrestle into usefulness for us. By the way, another point that keeps coming back to me is that the school construction project was, let's say, lavish in the number and variety of consultants that it engaged. They, one after the next. You can see it's all out there in the public record. Even the billing statements is there in the public record. So they didn't wing it on anything in the school project. So in a way, without starting too sharp a fight in those exact words, you know, we want the same. We want it to be taken seriously. We want professional assistance for it. We're very conscious of the value, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
I,
maybe there's a way to say that.
yeah, I think that is a good point. And in terms of dollars and cents, even though we don't want to focus on that, and
Mhm.
I do think one of the counselors may make this argument for us, but I think uh, here it says, reducing the amount to 100,000 saves only $150,000. It's spread across multiple years. So in the end, I honestly think it saves the average taxpayer probably about $3 a year
Yeah,
for 10
yeah.
years. And I think, not I think for the people who are focused on saving taxpayers' money, that's, you know, for $3 a year, I think most Amherst taxpayers would want to see a really, you know, to see us really support the arts in the school. I think that's a powerful argument, even though I know we don't want to focus on money.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
that's a
somewhere,
great argument. That's a really important argument.
Yeah.
But I don't think giving them a piece of paper that says too much about money is.
I don't think we should give them a piece of paper with this at all.
Yeah.
I don't think that this should be handed out before
Yeah.
before we go in. I think what we could do is have a PowerPoint that we give them beforehand, a simple PowerPoint that maybe just has best practices and process, what 250 provides, and, you know, a slide
Yeah.
for each one of these, and that's it.
Yeah, all the positive stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and then I know we have to have all the other stuff too, but I like not giving them, you know, like too much room to start with that.
yeah,
Mhm.
I foresee that after the presentation that Lori just sketched here, what the PowerPoint would be, that the conversation with the counselors would move first into discussion of value. And then at some point it sort of wind its way around to somebody asking, all right, what do we get for 100,000
Yep.
or something? So we can't we can't just shrug when we get to that point.
Oh, I know.
But we also can't, and this was, you know, what I had in mind when I first suggested wanting to talk with Paul is that I don't want a counselor saying, "Oh, okay, tell us, can we get a good work of art for 85,000?"
Mm.
And to us to be in, for us to be in the position of saying, yes, you can, or no, you can't.
I think it's really helpful, a document that broke down the prices, because I think $250, $250,000 is a lot of money. But then when you start hacking at it,
Yep.
of all the then it starts to get like a smaller amount that
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
is.
you know, I think that's really valuable to show, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah.
Especially with the consultant fee in there too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, what Lynn did share with me is she said generally the consultant fee is 10% of the project, whatever the project is.
Mhm.
And that some consultants charge by the hour. She would not recommend us doing that
Yeah.
because these
Right.
projects can drag out and you don't really know what
Yeah.
that ends up being. So she
Mhm.
would not recommend we do that. In terms of, yeah, I mean, if they give us $100,000, we will, you know, I think it's very advisable to still hire a consultant and to find the best art we can. And
Mhm.
it just won't be as,
Mhm.
you know, we won't get the same level of artist who has, you know, the artist who we would get for having a larger amount of money would be artists with that much more experience, whose work is valued more
Yeah.
highly, you know, but maybe you get a young student or someone that can do something wonderful. Generally, sculpture costs, you know, the cost to make sculpture, you know, the materials cost more. So, you know, but people can be innovative, and it's not to say that nothing good will happen. I just think that we will
Mhm.
get a more significant work of art by spending the whole amount. And I think it's in line with what is in the, you know, the cost of the building.
Yeah.
So,
I
you know, it's more likely that we'll end up with more proposals for sort of mural. And as I said, mural, or maybe it'll be the designed. I think, Tom, you showed a few things, you know, like a bike rack, artist designed bike rack or something, you know, a few different
Yeah, something
things. And I,
practical.
yeah, but, you know, could be nice, or a nice mural or something. I just don't think it's going to be the kind of thing that you're going to drive out of your way to go see.
Uh,
Yeah.
And that's going to be the same kind of draw as a really important work of art. And
Mhm.
that would be my argument. But if we can show some examples, that would be great.
Lori, I think, and everyone, I think a point for us to keep in mind is that according to the bylaw, um, once we have the amount of money um, fixed, it's up to us to decide or to recommend to the town how to go about conducting the project. So I think that goes to your point about still wanting a consultant,
Absolutely.
even
Yep,
on the 100,000
I totally agree.
point there, that we don't. Uh, so in other words, we still have hands on the project after the council decides how much money.
Right.
And the other side of that is that, you know, the council is the one, the council, they're the group that ultimately okays whatever comes out at the end of the selection process. So they're not just writing us a blank check.
Yeah, they have the final say. They do.
Yeah. And
So do we, I think we have a couple of things we need to sort of make sure that we do before the next meeting. One would be to get the names of other consultants. So I think, Dara, it sounds like you know some people that you can reach out to.
Yeah, and I think Terry was suggesting that she did too.
Great.
I think
So,
with a town with 5 colleges, we probably can find well, 3 colleges, we could probably find some, some
Yeah.
good people.
yeah.
okay, so that would be great if we can get those names for our next meeting. And I think we
Mhm.
need
Okay.
to have our links to whatever we're going to show, as examples. It
Yeah,
could be that
I'll work on
volunteer
that.
to- Yeah, I'll work on that also. I can
that
put
would be
it
great.
up.
Great.
And I think maybe some of these consultants could share with us, some
Mhm.
examples of
Yeah.
projects they've done and
Mhm.
the kind of money that was spent on those
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah. I agree that getting into conversation with some of these potential consultants as soon as possible sounds very helpful.
Okay, and in terms of reaching out to the architect,
Um,
anyone?
I'd be willing to do that. Start with Kathy,
Great,
and I want to be careful not to appear to be going around her,
Right.
but I also don't want to stop just with what she might choose to show us. Now, I'm sure what she's going to show us is going to be very helpful, but I don't think
but
that's
I think what we want
them.
is to have the architect on board for the public art
Yeah.
if we could have a statement from the architect saying, with the design of this building, there are maybe
Hmm.
I'm gonna make this up. There
Hmm.
are several places where public art could go, and
Hmm.
we endorse to the 0.5% to be spent on this project
Hmm.
for this building, and believe
If you
that it
look
would
at if you look
enhance
at
the
the
building.
renderings, the sketches and renderings, in the background, you'll notice that there is art on the walls
Mhm.
in the building. So the architect did not draw just blank walls.
Mhm.
And I think the importance of that is that the uh, there is some sensitivity to the value of having some substantial art there. So let's see what help we can get from that quarter. Okay,
Did I miss anything? I just wanted to kind of
that's
bring us into what's needed for the next meeting.
very helpful.
Very
I'll
helpful.
see if I can
Lynn.
reach out and figure out like the students at Crocker Farm and people go there to vote. There's book events there. I mean, what kinds of community activities
It's
but it's
Fort
still-
River, not Crocker.
Oh yeah, Fort River. I mean Fort
Right.
River, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I don't know,
book
I can-
sale in the midsummer, there
Mhm.
are the voting, yeah, there are.
and there's they use the fields. I'm assuming it's the baseball fields
Yeah.
used for, I don't know. I'm trying to see if I can figure
Not
out.
right now. The baseball fields, nothing's used because I go there every day. I'm on the van with kids.
Mhm.
So they have it all screened off. So
Yeah.
what used to be the basketball courts is now parking.
But in
They have-
in the general scheme of
Yeah,
things,
but
before they tore the
before
place
before all
apart.
this started, there
Yeah,
were various uses of the building and grounds. It's a good point for us to
Really
bring.
good.
You know, another one, again, I don't want to get snagged in this, but you know, that the citizens should show up to see their beautiful new school too. And to appreciate the artwork that the project has put up.
right.
And
Okay.
I really think to emphasize that it will be there for generations
Yeah.
ahead. This is
Yeah.
it's
We can do
important.
some arithmetic to roll out how many students will go through that school over 10, 20, 30 years.
Hmm.
Okay, any,
So do we know who's gonna work on what? Lynn, you and I are gonna do links? Work on
Yeah,
some.
so yeah, I'll pull out some
Okay.
pictures and see
and
if I
I'm
can
gonna
get
get,
prices.
okay, and then my piece is that I will get with Kathy to get her to show us what she offered. And I'll also figure out what we can do, reach out to the architect.
And Terry
No.
and Darla are doing,
Reach
no,
out, reach out to our consultants. I'm gonna look around in the Amherst area and ask my friends at Hampshire. And I've also gonna put out a call to my friends in Arlington with the Art Commission, because I know I have a lot of people working there who might be able to give me some names as well.
And I can
Yeah.
ask my friend for the people that would recommend in
Awesome.
Boston.
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So we each have our project. I
Yep,
just
we
wanna
do.
make sure that we're not overlapping.
All right.
Good.
Thank you for that, Mikey.
Sure.
All right.
Move
Okay.
to adjourn.
Okay. A second to the motion.
A
Second.
second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. It passes. Thank you all.
Thank
See
you.
Thank you,
um,
everyone.
I'll check,
Thank you.
I will check on what date we had agreed, but I think it was the 21st.
We are getting together on May, I think we agreed Monday, May 5th.
There was one before that.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think it's April 21st, right?
Did we?
I think that's
Yeah.
Monday, yeah.
Oh, did we? Monday, May 21st? I didn't do
No,
that.
April.
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 April,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops.
2 days after the next protest, those who are going.
Oh, gosh, I didn't have that. Okay.
No, we
May 5th, I don't
we
think I
thought
have
we
it.
really wanted to step up.
Makes sense. Makes
The
sense.
day
Sure.
after Easter, I think it is.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yep, yep. Yep.
Okay, May 5th.
Okay.
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 All right.
Good.
Thank you all.
All right.
Okay,
Thank
Thank
you.
you
bye-bye.
all.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.